Thank the member. Recognize the member for Delta North.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And on behalf of my constituents in Delta North, it gives me great pleasure to stand before you and speak to the important topic of food banks and the importance of helping to get more food in the hands and on the plates of the people who need it. The first food bank in Canada opened its doors in 1981 in Edmonton, Alberta. While food banks were originally intended to be a temporary measure, the need for them continued and in fact grew. Today there are more than 800 food banks and 3,000 food programs in Canada. Most people are aware that food banks offer food assistance. They may not be familiar with the variety of different types of programs offered, and these include sharing hampers of food and personal care products, preparing and serving meals from soup kitchens, operating snack programs, providing post-secondary campus food programs, running community kitchens, organizing community gardens. In addition, the people who turn to food banks often need other types of assistance. Food banks have responded, and many now provide advocacy and support, such as providing skills training, such as food preparation skills, helping people to search for jobs and transition into employment, raising community awareness about hunger and poverty, assisting with the search for safe, affordable housing, helping people find good quality, affordable childcare, providing referrals to other service agencies and support services. Most food banks and food programs depend heavily on volunteers for much or all of their operational activities, and in fact, close to 40% of food banks are run solely by volunteers. Their important work is made possible through contributions from corporate sponsors, individual donations, community support, parent organizations, and the provincial and federal governments. I'd like to make particular mention of the Surrey Food Bank Society, which also serves my community in North Delta. In June 1983, it was formed and opened up in a dilapidated building on King George Highway. The location and the society itself were deemed to be temporary measure until the economy turned around and people could get back on their feet. What began as a temporary solution to a temporary problem has grown to a 7,000 square foot warehouse in Whalley, a fleet of 4 vehicles, a lift truck, 100 active volunteers, and a staff corps of 13. The Surrey Food Bank Society currently distributes approximately 2,000 food hampers each week and has expanded support on many other internal programs, agencies, and is affiliated with many different food security programs such as Harvest Box and the Food Action Coalition. At the Surrey Food Bank, they say we give people a hand up, not a handout, and it's true, and I thank them for their contribution to this province. Another example that I'm proud to share with this House, Mr. Speaker, is the great support for my community of North Delta, where Delview Secondary School recently hosted its 22nd Thanks for Giving food drive, the largest single-day food drive in BC. More than 450 students at the North Delta School were involved in the food drive, with 90 teams of people, including staff and parents, coming together to canvass the neighborhood for donations. Together, in under 3 hours, they collected 10,000 cans and other food items, with all proceeds going to Delta Assist and the Surrey Food Bank. The BC government is working to help make life more affordable for British Columbians and support vulnerable families. Government has provided low-income families with enhanced supports and is increasing opportunities to improve their economic well-being. This year, in 2014-2015, the BC government is investing more than $51 million in the Community Link program and $11.2 million in an additional vulnerable student supplement that supports meal and snack programs, child and youth workers in inner city and community schools, literacy and healthy school programs for vulnerable students. Honourable Speaker, no discussion of hunger is complete without acknowledging the root cause, which of course is low income. Under the BC Jobs Plan, we remain focused on the long-term fundamentals to grow BC's diverse economy and support job creation. With a near-record employment of almost 2.3 million people working, it's clear we're seeing results. BC's unemployment rate is consistently below the national average. And as of 2 weeks ago, Honourable Speaker, this government also raised the minimum wage to $10.45 an hour to keep BC in line with other Canadian jurisdictions. A modest increase, Mr. Speaker, admittedly, but one that adds certainty to the business community as well as certainty to the people who are going to require this, the wage increases going forward to help support and sustain their families. I just wanted to conclude my first portion of this debate with a sincere thank you to all those who have tirelessly worked in their communities to strengthen our province's 95 food banks so that chronic hunger in our local communities is alleviated, and while we all work to find long-term solutions to hunger. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the member. Recognize the member from Nelson Creston.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. It's my pleasure to be able to respond to the members' comments on food banks and the great work that they do throughout this province and indeed throughout the entire country. I have first-hand knowledge of what food banks do. I was able to, in 2003 to 2005, I had the privilege of running the Nelson Food Cupboard. I was their manager, and I was the manager of one staff person, but 50 volunteers, and the member noted that no food bank could do its great work without the work of volunteers. And we relied on about 50 volunteers each week to contribute their time and energy to making that little food bank that could do its work. We operated out of the basement of the Nelson United Church, and we provided all the service that the member noted. We did food security workshops where people learned how to freeze, how to can and preserve food. We did workshops where people learned how to cook some of the things that were available at the food bank, because as everybody knows, the offerings at any food bank is very limited and normally regulated to non-perishable items. And so how do we cook without fresh fruits and veggies and so on, or how do we use fresh fruits and veggies that perhaps are less costly than a pineapple in February, for example, but maybe how do we use celery root in the middle of winter? And we did all of that work, Honourable Speaker. We did food drives, and as the member mentioned, the food drive done in his community that received 10,000 cans of foods. We did food drives as well in Nelson, and they do food drives all over the province. But the reality is, Honourable Speaker, is that no matter how successful your food drive, the demand will always outstrip the supply. And I cannot begin to tell you how every day a single mom or single dad would come in looking for extras like granola bars, fruit roll-ups, or cereal or fruit cups for their children. And sometimes I'd say, yes, we had it. And sometimes I'd say, no, we didn't. And that meant that their child wasn't getting a proper breakfast in the morning. And I had to know that every day. And every volunteer and every staff member at a food bank knows that. And I also know, Honourable Chair, that there is no other organization countrywide that is more dedicated to putting themselves out of business. If food banks didn't need to exist, the first people that would celebrate that are the very volunteers and the staff at food banks, because they know that they're only there. They were supposed to be there for a temporary measure, and yet here we are 30 years later, and we're still relying on food banks. People who have income supports like disability and welfare in this province, they are consistently directed by the ministry offices to go to food banks to supplement their food needs, because we know that rates are too low. 12% of those helped by food banks are actually working, so we know that a job isn't the only solution, as members opposite suggest. And in British Columbia, 30% of people who rely on food banks are children. 97,369 was last year's hunger count total for British Columbia. The change from 2008-2004 is up 19,268. Mr. Speaker, this government continually lauds the activities that they undertake to reduce poverty, but they have no plan. Still, the only province without a plan in the entire country, and no wonder poverty keeps going up. That's what this government has offered the rest of Canada, to be number one in poverty rates in this country. Number one in child poverty rates for a decade. Honourable Speaker, when we see the work that food banks do, they are the stopgap measure to this government not having a poverty reduction plan and a fulsome, true plan that addresses poverty, that makes sure that when parents need cereal, they need fruit roll-ups, they need fruit cups, they need granola bars, that they have the income necessary to go to the grocery store and purchase those items to make sure their children are going to school with a full belly, so that they can learn and access every opportunity available to them in life.
Thank the member. Recognized member from Delta North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member from Nelson Creston for her comments. And with regard to her assertion that we have no poverty reduction plan, Mr. Speaker, it's my firm belief this side of the House does have a poverty reduction plan. It's called putting people to work, Mr. Speaker. When you can provide good-paying, sustainable jobs for the people in this province, you put people to work, get good jobs, they bring home food, they support their families, they put their children through school, they do everything that's expected of them as good parents. And what's more important, Mr. Speaker, those children grow up to be good citizens and good contributors to this province as well. Thank you very much. And as I said, we can't talk about hunger, Mr. Speaker, without acknowledging its root cause. And yes, I agree, low income is a root cause. And that's why this government has worked tirelessly for more than a decade to position BC where it is today, a diverse, strong, and growing economy. It's a significant accomplishment in an uncertain global economy. Now, I alluded earlier to the other tools that this government has implemented to support families, including tax policy, social supports, education, and training. Government has improved, extended, and added tax credits and programs to help support BC families and keep life affordable. Including for 2015, we're providing a small enhancement to the BC tax reduction. This will mean that a single individual earning more than $19,000 a year before paying any provincial personal income tax. And now that's modest, and this measure will benefit roughly 500,000 people in this province, 500,000 taxpayers, Mr. Speaker, and letting them keep a little more of their hard-earned money so they can spend it on their families. And last week, you also heard about the other measures government's taking to remove barriers and open new opportunities for British Columbians to move up the income scale. We announced a significant change to the Income and Disability Assistance Program that will help single parents secure meaningful jobs by allowing them to stay on assistance for up to 12 months while they train for their new job, including their benefits, Mr. Speaker, and including childcare. This major program, a $24.5 million investment over 5 years, recognizes how challenging it can be as a single parent in this province, especially when transitioning to the workforce. On Tuesday, government raised the earnings exemption, last Tuesday, from $200 to $400 for single parents on income assistance, allowing a person to earn more money from a job without jeopardizing their full provincial support payments. Families with children who receive income assistance double their monthly income exemption for $200 to $400 a month and increase it from $300 to $500 a month for families who have a child with a disability. Effective September 1st, these changes won't affect their income assistance rates. Families will also be able to keep their basic health supplement coverage for a full year when they leave income assistance for employment. Honourable Speaker,
Thank you, member.
I could always say more, but thank you very much for your time, and I'll conclude my debate. Cheers.